All right, so there's a lot of activity around the idea of carbon capturing. If you're not familiar with it, even here in Springfield, City Water, Light and Power moving forward with a carbon capture type of operation, and a lot of other areas around the country looking to capture carbon dioxide from a variety of different sources, power plants to manufacturing facilities and so on, and they're looking to store it. How they're going to use it afterwards, still a developing technology, but there's concerns about a movement to pipeline all of this carbon dioxide around the United States. And there's a pipeline that's being planned here in central Illinois, cutting right through Sangamon County. And joining us to talk about this is a citizen who's concerned about this and part of a group called the Citizens Against the Heartland Greenway pipeline. Kathleen Campbell joins us. Kathleen, thanks for taking time with us on WMAY. We've got short amount of time here, so let's get to the crux of it. What are your guys' major concerns about this planned pipeline, and how are you going to stand up against this?
Well, we have two major concerns. The first one is safety. When there was a rupture, a CO2 pipeline rupture in Satarsha, Mississippi, people within 1 mile and further were all hospitalized. They foamed at the mouth. They had seizures. Some still have long-term effects over 2 years after that event. So we're very concerned about our safety, and they are running this very close to housing. And it's deadly. When these pipelines rupture, it's a heavy gas. Unlike gas, it doesn't disperse upwards. And it has no smell at all, so you can't detect it like gas. It crawls along the ground. It can go into low-lying areas. It's absolutely invisible other than the dry ice crystals in it. And so literally you can suffocate in your sleep. And yet in my area, they're running it very close to our village of Glenarm. So there's no way that EMS can rescue you. One, they wouldn't have enough time because it can kill you in minutes. And two, our EMS services couldn't possibly respond to a whole housing area like ours down here in Glenarm, not all at once.
So what are the next steps here, and how far are we away from this actually being implemented throughout central Illinois, including Sangamon County?
Well, Sangamon County has intervened at the ICC, as has our group. We are thoroughly opposed to this. But they're on an 11-month timeline. They filed with the ICC on July 25th. And so within 11 months after that, the ICC has to make a decision. And if they approve it, only 6% of the landowners have signed voluntary easements. But by Illinois state law, the other 94% of properties could be taken by eminent domain. And I find that abhorrent because our second big concern, too, is the disruption to farmland. Farmland does not recover from these pipelines, not fully. And there's been studies at Ohio universities, at Iowa State University. So croplands don't recover. So the farmers are against it. They're also tearing up 98 miles of farmland for one pickup at the Galva ethanol plant. How is that possibly ecologically sound, and how is that fair to the people that own that land? But yeah, we're very concerned. So we intervened at the ICC. We have our group, Citizens Against Heartland Greenway. We've hired an attorney, and we are trying to stop it.
We're talking with Kathleen Campbell. She is one of the citizens, part of a growing citizenry across the state and across central Illinois that are raising concerns about this CO2 pipeline. And is it your understanding that this pipeline is meant to bring in carbon that's captured from across various sectors to then put it into some reservoir somewhere to have like a backup supply of carbon dioxide somewhere for what's your understanding of how this is going to be used and why this is being implemented?
Illinois is being used as a trash bucket. This is a hazardous waste material from 5 states. So they want to put all of it by Taylorville, although they're also looking at Montgomery County. They're exploring other counties because Christian County is opposed to it. But the big picture is really frightening. There's 4 pipeline companies that want to put hazardous waste, CO2, across the state of Illinois for deposit in Illinois. And nationally, they are now talking about having 60,000 miles of CO2 pipelines, all for deposit in Illinois, to inject the hazardous waste into the sandstone formation, the Simon Sandstone Formation here. but it's highly dangerous. These pipelines are incredibly dangerous and damage farmland.
So we're looking at the map here while we're talking with Kathleen Campbell, and across Sangamon County, you've got New Berlin that could be impacted. You've got Loami that could be impacted.
Mm-hmm.
You've also got the southern part of Chatham that's going to be impacted. Auburn seems to have a few miles to the north where this pipeline is planned to go through. Divernon, just a few miles to the north, but then also Pawnee, just a few miles, a stone's throw, really, when you get down to it. Once it gets into Christian County, Edinburgh's close by, then it's just a few miles north of Taylorville where it seems to end. But you're saying, Kathleen, that even if it's just a few miles away, and it's not even a few miles away from Chatham, it is right up against at least the planned pipeline. Right up against Chatham, the southern tip of it.
Yep.
But what's really the harm if it's a couple of miles away and we have some kind of burst? Why is that problematic?
Because it depends on the prevailing winds. It can, again, it's heavy, but the winds can carry it. Again, in Satartia, Mississippi, everyone within a mile and a half was hospitalized, and they evacuated over 200 people. But it can travel miles. And so if you have a wind, the other thing is if it's raining, it turns into carbonic acid. The other thing to consider is that when this comes out of the ground, it's negative 109 degrees. This is what dry ice is made of. And that plume coming out is full of dry ice crystals. And so full body frostbite is a risk if you're out gardening in your yard and that plume comes over. And Navigator has not released to us how far that frigid mass of dry ice crystals is going to impact for frostbite of your eyes, mouth, ears, and possibly whole body. So there's several risk factors with this. But if you're at a distance of even a mile, we know that's not safe. You can still get seizures, foaming at the mouth, asphyxia, and you get confused, and your hearing and vision can be impacted, so you might not be able to escape. The other thing is only all electric vehicles will work. So our emergency vehicles that operate off fossil fuel engines will stop. And that's what happened in Satartia. EMS went out and all their vehicles stopped. So some of their EMS workers had to go to the hospital. Unless you have an all-electric vehicle and an oxygen mask that you can immediately clamp on, you're not going to be able to escape this.
We're talking with Kathleen Campbell, Citizens Against the Heartland Greenway pipeline. I just noticed a little bit of a typo on my graphic, but regardless, Kathleen, what is the ultimate the goal here? What's the timeline, and what options do citizens in these various impacted communities where they're looking to place this, including New Berlin, Loami, Chatham, definitely, Divernon, Pawnee, even Edinburgh and Taylorville? And all the residents who are close by in these farmlands, what should they do? How can they let their voice be heard in all of this?
Well, contact their legislators. There's comments at the ICC website. Go in and put on public comment. Navigator has a form letter on its website. So people are sending in this form letter repeatedly. So we need to have the residents put in the comment sheet at the ICC docket for the Navigator to oppose it. They need to contact their legislators. If they go to the Coalition to Stop CO2 Pipelines, noillinois.co2pipelines.com, they can click, and we have a place where they can send letters to their legislators, and another click where they can send a letter to the ICC. Also, if they join our group, Citizens Against the Heartland Greenway Pipeline, that is useful. Every single township in Sangamon County has filed a resolution opposing it, as has Sangamon County by intervening at the ICC. The Farm Bureau, the State Farm Bureau, has recommended that this proposal or application be dismissed at the ICC. The ICC staff has recommended that it be dismissed at the ICC. Or that they voluntarily withdraw it. So there is a lot of opposition to it. But if this gets approved, again, the remaining 94% of people can have their land taken by eminent domain.
Kathleen Campbell, greatly appreciate you reaching out on this, and we'll keep an eye on what's going on here. Please do keep us posted, all right?
Thank you so much for your time. You're doing good work.
Appreciate that. Now 7:48 on WMAY, and much more coming.